people really wouldn't believe that, like, when I got into this shit, like, the reason I got into it is because public speaking was like my number one fear. I fucking hated it.
Really?
And like, I kind of just immersed myself in this shit. So now I could talk to a fucking wall if I want to now,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm that way too, man. Welcome everybody. This is the YouTube page. It talks a lot about a little. Wow, gotta get my hands right on that. Either way, you stumbled upon the YouTube page. It talks a lot about a little. This is Cam Gwynn talking. Cam Gwynn Talks. I got TekNoNo with me today. First off, how are you?
Doing pretty good, man. How are you?
I'm great, man. I appreciate you doing this. And like I was telling you before, you're like kind of a guinea pig right now. You're the first person that I don't actually know, hadn't had contact with before any of this happened. So this is going to be a fun one. So first off, TekNoNo is a DJ, and he also makes, would you say, like dance music, kind of club type music, all right? And, he's got a couple tracks out right now. If you look him up on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, he's all over there. Instagram is TekNoNo as well. I'll throw all of that in the description. But what got you into DJing first off?
So back in 2015, I had one of my last surgeries that I've had. If we kind of go into high school, I played hockey my whole life. I had 6 surgeries going from my senior year of high school into my sophomore year of college. And in 2016, I had my last surgery. And just due to, losing some friends to heroin and opioid addiction and stuff, and, battling my own addiction with the opioids and stuff like that, having surgery after surgery after surgery and following the protocol for, what the doctors were having me do for pain management. I realized that at that time, like I really had to distance myself from that. And, before my last surgery, my grandma actually passed away. But she left me a chunk of change. And, before she passed away, she told me, like, I want you to spend this money on something that, you're always going to remember me by. So, fast forward to that surgery, the doctor was writing the script for the opioids, and I took it out of his hand and ripped that bad boy up. He's like, what are you doing? And I said, I don't need those. Like, I'll take care of it on my own. Went to Guitar Center that day with my dad and bought some DJing equipment, a mixer, a speaker, and literally just taught myself how to DJ. That was my medicine to kind of heal from, the surgery and whatnot. It wasn't like too major of a surgery compared to the ones that I went through. So I knew that, like, from a pain management standpoint, I would be okay. But it definitely, like, it was a challenge at first, but music's always been an escape for me. It's something that, my father and I have always, like, really connected on. And even my mom, like, on our car rides and stuff to hockey practice, car rides with my dad, him playing the air drums in the car. It's always been, like, my escape. It's always been, like, I've always had a connection with music. And when I taught myself how to DJ, it kind of just took a life of its own. Like, I've always been very spirited, very, like, energetic. I was most spirited and most memorable in high school. So, like, it's finally, like, given me a platform to really utilize, like, all of that energy, especially because, after all those surgeries, the doctor basically said, like, hey, man, like, you got to really ask yourself, like, is this something that you want to do for the rest of your life? Is this pain something that you want to really deal with for the rest of your life? Like, you may get to a point where you're going to have to numb yourself in order to get through this. And you really have to think, like, is that something that you want to do? And to be honest with you, when the music, and the DJing took over, I finally found, like, that new love, that new purpose, because, playing hockey for 12 years and, playing AAA and getting offers for juniors and stuff like that, and having this identity and an idea that I had for myself as, like, an adult, it was stripped from me. So I didn't really know, like, where I belonged or what I was at that point. And when I got that equipment, it allowed me to kind of create this new identity. And that's when kind of DJ Nono was born, which was my first name.
Okay. So DJ Nono is the first name, and now we're on to TekNoNo. Where does that name come from then?
So Nono Skiz was my Xbox Live name back when I was in 6th grade. Me and my boy from Miami, he lives out there now. He's Sobo Skiz, I'm Nono Skiz. So it kind of just DJ NoNo was kind of just something that developed from there. I did that for probably like 2 or 3 years, maybe even 4 years, up until the pandemic happened. And, I held residencies at some of the clubs in Detroit, played at places like the Annex, 350 Terrace, which are some of the biggest clubs out in Detroit, with DJ Godfather, DJ Chrome, which are very reputable names out in Detroit. Manjin Lao, Exodus, all these different clubs. But then the pandemic happened.
Right.
So, I had a show for Cheat Codes. That was like my first big show where like I was, supporting a huge artist. And the pandemic happened and canceled like a bunch of my other shows that I had coming up. Riff Raff was one of the artists I was supposed to open up for. What was the other one? Blau, which is like, if you're familiar with Blau's House, it's like a mixtape series that he did. But and the pandemic happened, like I've always loved house music. Like it's always been a passion of mine. Electronic music, it's just a high energy feeling. It makes you feel something. And when all that free time came about, I kind of struggled with it for a while, because I went from like DJing all these clubs every single weekend and being the center of attention for like a large portion of that night. And then like going from that to only working my day job and then going home to an empty house where there was nobody there. There was no interaction, nothing, no spotlight. It definitely was like a shock charge. But, after like adapting to the circumstances and stuff, it just like kind of pushed me to create this TekNoNo thing. Like I love the genre, I guess you could say, is tech house. Like I make tech house music, which is like percussion led house music, electronic music, a little bit of bass house and stuff. But that's where TekNoNo is born. A lot of people see my name and they're like, "Oh, you play techno?" And I'm like,
right.
"No, I don't." Like I'll listen to like melodic techno, but you're not gonna catch me at 5 a.m. in a dark room or a warehouse just like dong dong.
Yeah,
dong.
I was gonna say like the newest song that you have out, "Gang." It doesn't sound. It's not a techno sound in my opinion. Like it is like a club like DJ type of sound, but you can also just like listen to it casually. Like you don't. I don't listen to a certain type of music always type of thing. I like to explore and find new things. So like when I was going through and listening to your music, I was like, dude, I want to dance. Like I need to be like around people dancing right now. Like that's how I felt. And when I was listening to Gang, I was like, dude, this is like a workout song. Like this is something I can be like pumping some iron to, just like going crazy in the gym, which I need to get back into, but that's for a later date. Either way, you've mentioned a couple things already that have kind of struck a chord with me, because I had a feeling that we would vibe on some level. I didn't know what it was going to be, but you mentioned that you played hockey for years, and that kind of it sounded like, you didn't quite say it, but it sounded like once hockey came to an end and you knew it was coming to an end, you were kind of lost for a moment. I played soccer for a long time, and when my sophomore year of college was done, I played at Schoolcraft, and it's just 2 years there. So when I was done there, I was like what am I gonna do? Like I knew I wanted to do like something with this, some sort of radio something. And then I started getting back into this recently, and I'm like, yeah, this is exactly it. Like this feels right, this feels good. um so going from like a sport, because I think we can both kind of explain this a certain way in our own way, but like, what is that feeling having the sport taken away from you?
I mean, dude, it feels like somebody kind of rips your skin off and tells you to figure out how to create your own new skin. It's almost like a snake kind of shedding the skin that it had once. You identify as like this being for so long. Like like I started playing hockey when I was 7, I think.
Yeah.
And like 19, I think, was like the last time I really played. Like I played beer leagues and stuff, but that's a different story.
I mean, I've done the men's league stuff too. It's not the same at all.
It's really not. And it's like, it just like, it's a shock charge. And, at the time, like I didn't really have the spiritual or the emotional intelligence to kind of guide myself through. So, that's where that addiction kind of set in, because it was like, I didn't really realize like the significance of what was going on, because I was numbing myself so much. And a lot of it, like it started off as like the doctor said, take one of these pills every 4 to 6 hours for pain. And then it was like, okay, well, I have another surgery, like take 2 of these every 4 to 6 hours. Then guess what? They up the chemical and now you're into something stronger that's even smaller. And then it's like, for so long, I was just trying to like hide myself in this shell because I didn't really know how to handle it. And then when I finally like snapped, there was a big depressive period and I didn't really know what to do. And, it kind of forced me to like fight or flight, you know what I mean? Like, and that's when I finally like got that mixer and I finally like immersed myself in music, but like got an audience to respond. It took the passion I had for hockey was kind of shifted into this music thing because I've always been like kind of a positive person and energetic person and stuff in high school, even growing up and whatnot. And like, I wasn't myself during that period of time, and music and DJing and being an artist kind of gave me myself back. Like I found myself throughout that process. And just given the responses from like some of the places that I would play, I started off doing weddings and stuff like that. And then I had a buddy, shout out to Cam Johnson and Brandon Hawkins and stuff, like they hit me up and they're like, yo, like we want you to come and DJ here or DJ there. And I was like, all right, bet, like let's go.
Let's
So I ended up going to Bowling Green, and they had a party at the hockey house, and we crammed like 150, 200 college kids into like the most ungodly house ever in the middle of like a cornfield. And that place was freaking lit, dude. And like that was my first time like really ever like having like peers of mine or like people my age like responding to my stuff, because I go do weddings or whatever, like private parties, and it's one thing, but then when you got a bunch of college kids hammered in front of you and they're like just getting after it, it was like, whoa, like there might actually be something.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you,
And
you
like
feel the
that's when I
energy you putting out, they feel it too. Yeah, I get you.
exactly. And that response and just like the feeding that it did to my soul, I was like, dude, I like this is I found it. Like I finally found like what I want to do here.
So
and it just took a life of its own.
yeah, I feel like you've already kind of answered the what sets like your genre apart from other music genres. It's more of a feeling. It's not quite a listen to what they're saying. It's more of a like what you can get out of it, you get out of it type of thing. So you
Yeah.
kind of already hit on that, but yeah, go ahead and further
I
explain.
mean, so like the genre itself, like I wouldn't even say that I'm just a tech house artist. Like
Right.
the house that I release, Gang, is bass house. It's way more like subby and more like just a lot more bass. But then if you listen to like Dysfunction, which actually that track charted on number 2 in the world for releases during that period
I
of
just
time.
watched that Instagram post right before this
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, dude. And like 12 in the world, like for all of the releases and stuff, like it's completely different vibe. And what I'm realizing now is like, especially with like some of these bigger artists, they're starting to like break away from the identity that the masses have been giving them, where it's like you're this one type of artist or you're this one type of artist. It's like, dude, we can make whatever the hell we want.
Exactly.
Like, do we have to release it? No. Like,
No.
you're going to be known for what you're known for, but then at the same time, there's nothing crazier, and the response from a crowd's like doesn't get more wild when you drop something they're not expecting, and it's like it's a genre that you're not known for, and they're like, whoa, like, oh my gosh, like I'll never forget the first time I dropped Gang in the club, and they were like, what the hell is this? Because like a lot of the stuff that I do is just like rolling bass lines and like a little bit more groovy and stuff. And then you just bring these big synth stabs and this bass line, and people are like, oh snap. You know what I mean?
See, I feel like when you're explaining all this, I didn't even realize like how many different types of house music there are. Like you've listed like 4 different types already. It seems like
yeah.
this genre is just way bigger than like I'm even giving credit to at all, or that I've given credit to anyway. I do like a lot of who is it, Flume, who does like a lot of work with other artists and stuff like that. But I am curious with Gang specifically. How does it work when you get 2 DJs working together like that?
So Apollo actually, when I was DJ NoNo, he came to the Annex in Detroit. He's friends with Chrome, and he dropped a set there. He was one of the headliners for the night, and we met, and we've always kept in contact. Went back and forth on Instagram, always supporting each other and stuff like that. And one day he hit me up and he sent me like this idea for this track. And at the time I didn't make bass house, and he sent it to me, and I was like, dude, like, yeah, like I want to be a part of this. And some tracks you spend 5-6 hours on it and it's done. But we took, actually, it was probably like over a year span of going back and forth and changing up different grooves and sounds and this and that until we finally like found this vocal, and like the bass line and everything else was created. And we are just like, boom, that's the one. We literally did everything virtual. There's like programs that you can share like the actual like file itself with like all the sounds and stuff. And like we would just bounce it back and forth for like a little over a year or whatever. And then finally we got the finished product, and boom, that's when the gang was born.
Interesting. Because I didn't, I was trying to figure like how that would work. Like if both of you guys were just like sitting in there and being like, all right, yeah, I think I'll take over the first layer, you take over the second layer, and you kind of just go from there and kind of tweak each other's stuff. But it kind of sounds like it's just an all hands on deck. Add this, how's it sound? You like it, I like it too. Let's do this type thing. It's very collaborative, as it would be for like any other music anyway.
It's kind of like, you know, you know what you're good at, right? So like for me, like I'm good at X, Y, and Z. Apollo's good at X, Y, and Z. So like we both kind of like put our goodness together, and that's when it was created. But there's always those, you know, like my roommate Aranismo, who's he's a minimal tech house producer, which is just a little bit more groovy, not as many sounds, not as heavy, just really just like stuff that you kind of groove to and stuff. We've produced tracks together. We got one coming out sometime this year on a label in the Netherlands, I think, somewhere over in Europe.
Okay.
But like the process is always different for every track, you know, like sometimes you sit in the same room and you're, you know, you're producing with the people and you're both like, oh no, like let's add this here, let's switch this up here. But you know what I found, especially like with the way that my brain works, because I'm ADHD as all hell, I personally want my own space when I'm creating, because when you have, you know, creatives coming together in the same room, especially when there's like that intense love for what you're doing, sometimes it could clash. But when you like have an idea for a track and like you do what you need to do with the track and send it off, then they kind of tweak some stuff and add some things and send it back. I found that that is way more productive than sitting in a room with two dudes or a guy and a girl, whatever the case may be, and like trying to like figure it out together, right? But it kind of just depends on, you know, who the people are and if they're close or if they're not. Like Apollo lives in Chicago. I'm in Detroit, like right outside of Detroit and Royal Oak. So like for us, it was like, I can't just like get on a train and come out there because, you know, during the day, I'm a manager at Target. Like I run the loss prevention team at one of the largest Targets within the 3 surrounding states during the day. So like, I can't just like on a whim do that, especially when I was holding all these residencies and doing TekNoNo shows and stuff like that too. So every track that you create is kind of different.
I got you. So you mentioned Royal Oak. I need to go out and visit there more. I'm originally from Metro Detroit area. I grew up in Waterford. I went to high school in Heartland. So I'm familiar. I played soccer
Heartland Eagles, right?
Heartland Eagles, yeah.
Dude, my little cousin Izzy is actually a freshman there right now. She just played her first varsity soccer game. So shout out to my little cousin Izzy.
Oh, we got a freshman on varsity. That's hype. Yep, all right. Yep. I love soccer. I love that. That's awesome. Izzy, let's go. Shout out Izzy. Wow, ties. That's crazy. I forgot what I was going to ask about Royal Oak, so I'm going to go to another question.
For sure.
Like you said, the ADHD, man, it kind of gets me. So you mentioned that you started making music because your grandma told you, like, one of her last wishes was for you to do something that's going to last, and you went out and you bought a DJ mixing set and everything like that. So that's a huge sentimental value in that in its own right. But is there like another reason why you kind of started, or like, I should say, why you make music? Like, is it to kind of bring people together? Is it to kind of,
I mean,
is it just therapy?
Dude, it is therapeutic because, you know, when you make music and you play a track and the crowd responds, it feeds your soul in a way that nothing that I've ever done has fed my soul. Like, and even when you're playing music that's not necessarily yours, it's just like, it's about conducting the realm. It's just like you have control of a room and these people are there to escape. And especially like over the last 2 years, you know what I mean? Like I've spent so much time really taking the time to create a journey for each and every show that I do. And every single show that I do is different. You're never going to hear the same set. You may hear a couple of the same tracks here and there, but I really pride myself on changing it up and hitting it from a different angle every time. But just with the main goal to like give people an escape, you know, like music helped me escape one of the darkest periods of my life. And my goal is to just bring people together and to help them get that same sort of experience in every single set that I have. And part of like staying relevant in this scene is not becoming stale. You don't want to play the same set every time because yeah, even though it slaps the first couple times, like you want to change it up and hit it from a different angle. So I'm always like listening to music and changing up styles and utilizing different songs for reference tracks and trying to make different styles of music in terms of house music, just because, dude, people are like, they need to be stimulated to an extreme nowadays. Like we're so heavily connected to technology, and like the human brain has really developed to be like a very digestive part of us where it's like we need new stimulus all the time. Like whether you're ADHD or not, like you're not going to go and see the same concert every single time. You're going to expect to see some new stuff. Now, obviously, there's always that nostalgic aspect to things, especially when you see like artists that have been around forever, you know, like Paul McCartney, The Who, Phil Collins, Sting, Genesis, you know, you name it, the Weeknd. You're always going to want to hear those like powerful tracks that resonated with you, but there's nothing like the response from a crowd when you play something they're not expecting, and then you're just like, whoa, dude, you
And then
know
they
what I
go
mean?
crazy for it. Yes, I totally get that.
Yep.
So you kind of have mentioned that like music is like a therapy in a way, and for me, I kind of feel that also. I think music is just like a crazy outlet, just in general. I mean, I love music. I got crazy stacks of vinyls all over the place. My phone is full of music, but
Yep.
that's one thing that I absolutely love about music, and I love being able to find artists like you is it brings people together. Like we probably would have never crossed paths, would have never known about each other if you weren't making music. So that's one thing that I absolutely love about music, and it kind of leads me into was there like a for me when I started realizing that like I absolutely because I wasn't super into rap when I was younger. I kind of grew into it, and now that's like one of my favorite genres. My favorite artist is J. Cole, and I didn't know that like I absolutely loved rap music and hearing storytelling through rap music until his second album, and I digested that, and I was like, yes, like I love talking to musicians. I love knowing more about music. I need to know more about music and stuff like that. So for you, is there a certain like artist or song that really kind of hit home? Like, oh, this sounds different from what I've heard before, and I want to kind of recreate this in a new way.
Oh boy. Um, I mean, yeah, man, like I think like one of the first electronic concerts that I ever went to, I was like maybe 20 years old, 19 years old, I think, and it was mad decent. I saw Major Lazer, Diplo, um, shit, like so many different artists like that. And that's like when I really just immersed myself in electronic music. Now, if you ask me, like, you know, who some of my, like, where some of my inspiration comes from, it's kind of hard to pinpoint, you know, like I have artists like, you know, Dylan Nathaniel, that is a big inspiration for me. Like he makes kind of like underground house music, like very deep stuff. But I'm influenced by a lot of different genres. And like for me, like that's the best part about music is like, you know, the track Dysfunction. I'm sure you probably don't know this, but the vocal that's on there is actually David Bowie. It's David Bowie interview from BBC Radio back from like the late 70s, the early 80s, when he talked about, you know, being an artist and how like being an artist is very dysfunctional because you have all of these different ideas that are constantly like going through your head, and it's like difficult. But then when you think about your average person, the consumer of like what the creator is creating, you know, the main purpose for them is just to survive steadfastly and create a home that's safe and feed their family, and that's it. And then you like have these artists where it's like I have to do all that, but then I'm like I have all these mouths to feed. And that's the best thing about music is like I can listen to like a Toto song, like Africa, and then
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like I could do something with that sample.
Mm-hmm.
Or you listen to a rap song, like that's kind of like how Gang was. Like initially we had I think it was like Meek Mill or some rap group, like we were utilizing like a chopped vocal like Doja Cat or something like that, and then we are like, like I don't really feel that, whatever. But like that's the beautiful thing about this music is like you're seeing like in tech house specifically, you're seeing all of these top 40 remixes, like my humps, or like all of these like early 2000 hip-hop songs now turning into this tech house and just completely taking over. That's the beauty of music. You can literally be inspired by one sound, the drop of a nickel on the floor, like a spoon hitting the wall, or like the raindrop hitting a puddle or something. You're like, oh my gosh. And the next thing you know, 5 hours later, you have this brand new track that's just like a completely different experience. And like, I wouldn't say that I'm inspired by like one person, but like when you think about the music in general, like Phil Collins is a huge inspiration. David Bowie, Prince, people like that, people I grew up watching and listening to and going to their concerts. I never got to see Prince, but I saw Phil Collins. Never saw David Bowie, but like Tom Petty, like Peter Gabriel, like, those are all the concerts I went to with my dad. And like when I make music now, like it's kind of my goal to tie the old in with the new. Like there's always going to be those new tracks that you create and it's a completely different sound and whatnot. But like that's where my love of music came from. And I want to try and tie in that old with the new so that people my age can enjoy where good music came from. And then like I'm still hitting the audience with people like my dad or my mom, where it's like it's that nostalgic feeling for them. And now all these kids don't know what the hell's going on, but they love it. You know what I mean?
Right. I do. I have been noticing a lot lately, and I like finding like when songs are sampled and stuff like that. Like I was listening, I believe it's Moneybagg Yo. I think it's by him. The song Waukesha. I was sitting there, I'm like, why does this beat sound so familiar? And it was on the radio every night while I'm at work. I'm like, why is this so familiar? And then one day Ashanti comes up, and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And then like a week later, they came out with a remix that's got her and Lil Wayne on it. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is just, I love finding that sort of stuff. And the fact that, like you said, you can be inspired by just a nickel hitting the ground the right way, like that's just very interesting to me. So I guess I'll hit kind of a little bit of a heavy question. I was going to leave it out, but I am curious now.
I'm ready.
Once you get to like your old man stage, once you're an old man and you're kind of done with having to do too much, you're retired now, you can look back at your life and be like, I was successful. I did it right. What will it take for you to feel that?
So I'm gonna explain. You kind of ask a question that like I ask a lot of people, but in a different way, and it's a little bit more intense. But for me, like I don't need to essentially reach any goal in order to feel fed, like to have my soul fed or to feel fulfilled. When I ask people and I get deep into conversation with people, very spiritual conversation, like I always ask, like, if you were to die tomorrow, would you be okay with it? And it's not like, are you ready to die?
Right.
It's, are you gonna leave behind? Like, are you okay with what you left behind? Are you okay with the impact that you made in the world? And for me, if you ask me that question, the answer would be yes, because there's nothing in this life that I don't do. I mean, dude, I work 50, 60 hours a week in retail, and then I DJ like, I used to DJ every single Saturday, sometimes Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Wednesday. Like there's no rock in my life that's left unturned. Like people ask me like, how do you do it? And the key is just when you find something that you love and the passion that you've never felt before, like that passion kind of takes over and it takes a mind of its own. And, for me, it's like, yeah, I have goals. Like I want to DJ big festivals. I want to DJ Tomorrowland. I want to DJ Ultra, all that stuff. But guess what? Like it's not necessarily about the destination. It's about enjoying the journey. The journey is the most important thing, because if you focus your eyes on the destination, you're gonna miss all of like the meat of the sandwich. You're gonna miss like what you're really doing it for, like the impact that you really have on the world. Like you can always look back and be like, yeah, like I did that. But at the same time, it's even more spiritually dense to be looking around when you're doing it and being like, whoa. Like
Taking
there's
it all
always a
in.
set in my sets where like I get really emotional because I look over at my crew that I bring to every show, and like I look, sometimes it's my family, like my mom and my dad or my brother and like, all my friends and stuff. And then I look into the crowd and I'm just like, this is why I'm doing this. Like I like this is why I'm doing this. And like, if somebody were to ask me like, if you were to die tomorrow, would you be okay with it? And the answer is yeah. Like, do I want to?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
But then at the end of the day, it's like, if the answer to the question is no, you need to change your life. You need to look inward and figure out why the answer is no. Like, is there somebody that you need to talk to and apologize to? Is there somebody that you need to forgive? Is there, a job interview that you want to go after? Is there a concert you want to go to? Like, there's so many different things, but like at the end of the day, like you have to live your life to the fullest, but understand that like the enjoyment and the love for what you do comes from the journey, not the destination. And to be honest with you, like I'm always reaching for more. That's just like my nature. And I think it's like human nature too, is to never necessarily be content. And I wouldn't say I'm content with where I'm at, but I'm content with the impact that I'm making on the things in the environment around me.
All right. This whole interview has been a lot of positivity, a lot of positive vibes and everything. So I always like my last question or it's not even really a question. It's just more of a, like, what's a positive statement that you would kind of give to everyone? You've said a lot of different positive things. You've mentioned on your Instagram about like the sun's up. It always comes up. You got to get
Yes,
going.
sir.
So maybe you can hit me with something different that you haven't said yet.
Oh, you want something different?
Something different. I want something new. If I'm not going to be able to get like a new track from you or something like that, I might as well try to get some new quotes from you, right?
You know what? I'm gonna give you two things. I'm gonna give you the OG TekNoNo saying, which is actually on the back of my shirt right now because birds are chirping, the sun is shining, and it's a good day to have a good day. But number two, I think, just in terms of positivity, and maybe it's not as positive as you're looking for, but like at the end of the day, you have to understand that like the people around you, like you never really know the type of battles that they're fighting. For me personally, like I got a big smile. I have a lot of high energy. I'm always smiling and stuff like that. But you never really know what someone's hiding behind the smile. And, every person you come in contact with, whether it's at your job or in your personal life or out at a bar or whatever, when they're hostile towards you or the situation may be negative, like try to always come from a place of love because you never really know what somebody's going through. You never know when they're projecting. And at the end of the day, like just treat everybody with love, treat everybody with respect, and just understand that like things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So like just always come from a place of love and understand that everybody's just trying to figure out this game called life. So the easier and the quicker that we get to understanding that we're really all in this together and we're all going to end up 6 feet in the ground or air, like dust in the air, the better off this world's going to be. We're in a dark place right now in this world. And the quicker that we understand we're all on the same mother freaking team, the better off this world's going to be.
I really appreciate that, man. This interview was awesome. Again, this is TekNoNo. We'll have to do this again, man. This was too easy. We got way too much other stuff that we can easily talk about, I can tell. So,
Heck yeah.
Look out for his new stuff. I'll put information in the bio about where you can find his stuff. He's on everything. Just go listen to it. It's easy to do. I appreciate this, man, a bunch. And that's the end
Thanks
of the
for
video.
having me, Cameron. And honestly, you guys if you're ever in Detroit, you ever want to come to a show, like I'll be coming out probably to you here pretty soon. But if you're ever in, you want to come to a show, let me know. And TekNoNo Official is my handle on all social media, Facebook, SoundCloud, Instagram, you name it. He'll link it down in the bio. But Cameron, thanks for having me out, man. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah,
and I look forward to chatting with you soon, brother.
I appreciate with you taking the time, man. This is awesome.